What up?
Let me pull this back
shit.
some.
Watch yourself.
Do you ever get times where you sweat?
Dude, I sweat all the time.
You can't stop sweating?
That's just the story of my life.
Like even after you shower?
Yeah, even after you've cooled, I've cooled down my body, yeah, I'm still sweating. I sweat for a long period of time after I get hot.
So like I went to the gym this morning and came home. I think the problem is it's got to be a cold shower. Not right away, but I've learned too, like if I go out and mow and I get all hot and sweaty during the summer and then I come in, you got to like kind of start it out warm and then slowly work its way back to where you can take the cold and
I'm
then
a
stay
psychopath,
in that
bro.
cold.
I'm a psycho, just straight cold.
Oh, you just get in
Straight cold. It sucks for like 30 seconds. I mean, I don't go all the way cold and zero warm. That's ridiculous.
Right, but
that's
it's not
like
even
Joe
like
Rogan.
mid cold, mid warm. It's just
I'm like it's on the cold side.
you're like
yeah.
70-30.
Yeah, especially when like if I mow or something, my head is what gets the hottest. So I feel like my head. What are you looking for?
I forgot my fidget.
Uh oh.
No tapping. No
Where's
tapping
mine?
today.
There we go. Oh, you know what? I'm getting a new one.
Oh, that should be nice and
super loud.
noisy. What
Yeah.
the heck did I do with it? See, that's a
fidget's
problem
gone.
too. Loose things. I should put a tile on it. So speaking of the gym and coming home this morning, something caught my eye and was very interesting, and I was like, "This needs to be on the podcast."
What's that?
So I was going down 81, coming home, and 81 is 3 lanes. And all of a sudden, up in front of me, and there was 3 of us cars. And we were kind of like NASCAR, where one car was out, one car, I was back, and another car was like mid-level. So we were in all 3 different ways. Mm-hmm. And a squirrel jumps the median. There's a concrete barrier in the median. And the squirrel jumps up on the median. Concrete barrel. It's like barrel. It's always one episode that I can't fucking talk. Barrier. That's like 6 foot high.
Yeah.
Jumps down, runs, misses all 3 of us, and makes it to the other side.
Did you swerve?
No, I didn't swerve.
Yeah, you
like
just hit
I was not the car that was the closest to it, so
You didn't have a lot of time to react.
he had to make it across before I got to him.
Yeah.
Or the car on my left would have nailed him. But then I started thinking, like, what was the squirrel's process? Like, do squirrels have a process like that? Or if deer cross the road? A deer goes so fast, but a squirrel was on top of the thing. So is the squirrel looking right at traffic coming, wondering if he can beat those 3 cars?
I mean, maybe. Here's what my hypothesis is that the squirrel will generally go back the way it came if it senses danger throughout its journey, because they feel like the way that they just came from was safe because they lived. So that's why sometimes the squirrel will be in the middle or 3/4 away across the road and then dart back under your car as you drive. It's because they thought that way was safe already.
So you don't think that a squirrel has like a, oh my gosh, I almost just got like killed? They don't have that thinking?
They might, but I don't know that they know how to dodge traffic very well. I'm just guessing. I'm no expert in squirrel behavior.
So do you think that when the squirrel was up on the barrier,
I don't think he was
looked
checking
to his right?
I don't think he
like,
was checking both ways.
He just went.
I think he was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go. I don't think he was really trying to cross the. Like, I don't think he was froggering it. No.
It really got me thinking. Like, how does their little squirrel brains process?
Now, you got an SUV. What do you stop for? What do you just hit?
I mean, I try to stop for any.
Would you have stopped for that squirrel on 81?
No.
Okay, all right.
No. If I'm in the middle lane, I don't even think I would dodge it. Like, I wouldn't take the risk of shooting over to another lane.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. Your instincts are different.
Sometimes you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Bunny. Would you hit a bunny?
No.
You try to miss the bunny?
Oh,
I mean, I wouldn't aim for the bunny.
No. So if I see a deer coming down the road, how big they are on an 81, my instinct would probably be to swerve and not even thinking about hitting the car next to me.
More people get hurt from swerving from deer than hitting them.
Right, because you automatically, your brain thinks get out of the way of harm, but you're not thinking of the other harm that's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in that situation before where I've seen like deer on the side of the road and start looking in my peripheral to see, can I dodge if they come out, or am I just going to have to take it?
My dad always said, if you're going to hit a deer, brake as much as you can, but right before you hit it, let off the brake, because when you brake, your front goes down.
Oh.
And so it's more likely to go into your windshield. So he was always like, if you let off the brake, your front pops back up, you might be able to hit it straight on. My grandfather, he was in his 80s. He was riding his Honda motorcycle and came home and he had like a scratch on his elbow, and he was upset. We're like, Grandpa, what happened? He was like, oh, I hit a deer on my motorcycle. And we were like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, he's 80, frail old man. He was like, yeah, I just feel bad for the deer. Killed it. I'm like, what, dude? You hit a deer on your motorcycle and you're fine?
Feel bad for the deer.
Yeah. His motorcycle had blood all over it, but it was fine.
Yeah, that's dangerous on a motorcycle.
I can't imagine.
I do have thoughts of, like, if you hit a deer and it comes through your windshield. I mean, that's terrifying.
That's right. You just got to let off the gas, bro. Let off the brakes.
But, I mean, speaking of that, too, did you know also when cops are sitting on an interstate, like, and they're doing radar, that's one thing they look for, is your braking and your front end going down.
Yeah.
Like, you're better off to stay your speed and just keep going, or you give yourself away by the cops seeing, boom.
They see the top go down, yeah. That makes sense.
So then it got me thinking.
This is a line of thinking on 81.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
squirrel led to...
And it starts snowballing, and then I was like, brains and thinking, and I was like, what I wanted to say next, like, I never want to get into politicalness because I just,
Get enough of that.
Sometimes freedom of speech is not really freedom of speech. You still have to watch what you say and what you do and where you work and how you work and things like that. But then I started thinking, how the brain works in a squirrel and how the brain works in a human. And then it got me thinking, too, lately with students and around the country, how we're going through this threat process right now where there's so many threats. There's been a few school shootings, nothing new, but now we're having these threats of every week it's multiple threats. And it's like, what's real, what's not? It's taking time out of, education where counselors and psychologists and cops around the counties are having to deal with these threats to make sure and perceive if they're real or not.
Right, you have to take it serious.
So how are you looking at all this stuff we've talked about before with your child being homeschooled.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about it.
Does it
nobody's doing bomb threats in our homeschool.
Right. So how do you perceive it from a outside view of not having a kid in school?
Oh, man, every time I see it, I'm like, God, good thing we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
I mean, I had a very visceral reaction to the folks that, in one of the school shootings, there was a bunch of, what was the one where there was, it was hours, the cops were holed up in the hallway and didn't move forward, and
oh yeah,
everyone was waiting, and the images of the parents who are being tackled by cops and stuff, telling them they can't go in, the feeling of your kid being trapped in there and you can't go in there drove me nuts. And then soon after that, there was a threat at the school across the street from my son's school when he was going to public school. And I thought, man, if that was at my son's school, I would just drive through the fucking building with my car and, go get him or whatever, even if cops were shooting at me. What would, you'd have to go in. I would have to do anything I'd have to do to get him. And that just made me feel like shit. So I didn't want to ever have to deal with that. And it was one of the reasons we took him out of school.
That's a very good point, too. I understand. Cops are put in a terrible situation with that, and they're trained for things like that. but at the same time, is their mentality the same as us as parents? Like, I
would-
mean, they still have kids of their own at home. They still have families of their own at home. So I don't think when the brain and the body takes over, yes, you want to be a hero. That's your job. You want to go by that. But I feel like if you let a bunch of parents run into the school, like, we're willing to, like, give up our lives.
I'm going in
to
with my
get to them.
shotgun and getting my kid and getting out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if we take, that's not even, I don't think that when our body takes over and adrenaline kicks in, our mentality of it is, let us go in. If we get killed trying to save our kid, that's what we got to do.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that shit is terrible. I mean, when I was growing up, there was threats. Some kid wrote he was gonna blow up the school in middle school on the bathroom wall, and it was just kids being stupid. And I don't think that the kid was ever gonna do that. But nowadays, because there's so many real things that actually happen, the cops have to take it serious. The county has to take it serious. The teachers have to take it serious, and it's scary. But I think a lot of these kids are just acting out.
They are acting out. And the one thing is, too, I'll always bring up, from a middle school to high school level, elementary, I feel like kids say dumb things, kids say things they hear. Once you get to that age of middle school and elementary, I mean, I always use the example, you can't walk into an airport and say bomb.
Yeah.
Like, rather...
These kids don't have a developed frontal lobe, though. They don't get it.
Right.
Like, literally, until you're 22 or something, men don't have a fully developed brain.
And that's where
consequences don't make sense.
And consequences don't make sense.
You don't think about it. That's why when we're all 16 and 17 and 18, we drive like fucking maniacs, because we don't think about the consequences.
Exactly.
Literally reminiscing about how I used to drive gives me anxiety today. 20 years later,
I would go with the same for that.
So, like, these kids just don't get it. And, it's not an excuse to blow up your school, but they may not think, like, okay, the kid who does not actually have intentions to take action, but who's just acting out and writing something stupid on the wall or on Discord, like, oh, I fucking hate the kids in my school, I'm going to shoot them. Like, they should not say that, but they're, I think a lot of them are probably just not at all thinking about the consequences. They're not at all serious about it. They're never going to take action on it. But again, you can't distinguish the real from the fake.
Right. And that's where it's taken more people to be involved.
The resources
for it to... Yeah. And then I don't think that we do enough on... As good as technology is and as advanced as we are, I mean, we can look at football players now and we can say, okay, they have gone crazy because they've taken so many shots to the head, right?
Yeah.
CTE. So we've found that out. I wonder what the research is like on students that have done it, that have passed, or what they can do with it to see what their brain function was at this time, or how or why is their brains different than everyone else. I mean,
and then you get into that what's that movie where they're predicting people who are going to commit crimes before they do it? It was a futuristic sci-fi movie. Is that Minority Report?
Yeah, I believe it. Yep.
Yeah. Then you get into some shit like that. You're like,
right.
You're a school shooter. Get out of here.
And that's where it comes crazy too, is the picking of the what is not and what is not. I mean, and this is where we could be different. This is why I wanted to bring this subject up. I think we could be different in ways. I think we could be the same in ways. Like, my thing is, once you get to middle school, you see everything that's happening around you. You see that it's on the news all the time. Mm-hmm. You see the results of it. You see what it's taken in place. I think it's becoming a fine line of politically also, not taking any sides, but what action can be taken that makes both sides happy? So my thing is, I'm a gun owner.
Same.
And I don't ever feel like I should have my guns taken away. But if you have a child that maybe is going through some stuff, and we know about these things, and they do say something, and we bring in parents and FBI agents and ask them questions. If they are a gun owner, maybe it's not take their guns away at this for a long period of time, but to take it away for a while until we could do some research on this kid mentally.
I think the problem with any punishment like that is it's you're really punishing people to be honest. Like, so if I'm honest about my son's health, then I am going to be punished by having my rights, infringed upon. I'm going to have my guns taken away. And I think people will never buy into that. A punishment for being honest is really tough. It's like, are you going to rat yourself out if you speed? Are you going to go and go down to the police office and be like, I was just speeding, you write me up a ticket? No one's going to ever do that. So they're not going to opt in and say, like, oh yeah, my kid's a fucking lunatic, come take my guns away.
Right.
If they felt that way and they really thought that they shouldn't own guns in that moment, they would just get rid of their guns for a period of time.
Right.
But these parents who think that they still need to have those guns accessible and around, and who also realize that their kids are fucking maniacs, they don't want to do that. They're not going to. So then you're going to rely on what? Nosy neighbors or the teachers or psychologists or counselors to say, hey, this kid's crazy, go take their parents' guns away. It just gets into a weird scenario. So I think, honestly, it's like, I mean, I don't know if you remember when Columbine happened, they interviewed Marilyn Manson a lot because they thought it was all due to his music. They were like trying to pin it on him. And he's a crazy guy and also weird. But, his response was, they said, what would you do what would you say to the kids that did Columbine if you could talk to them right now? And he said, I wouldn't say anything. I would listen to them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's deep,
Yeah.
But not that I don't have pity for every school shooter, but, like, man, obviously they're in the wrong, they're doing the wrong things. But by the time they're at that point, countless other adults have failed them. Their parents have failed them.
Yes.
Their school has failed them. Their peers have failed them. It wasn't just they had a happy life and then woke up one day and killed half their class.
And I think it starts with the home. Like, sometimes, like, are these kids that good? That's where the mental part comes in. Like, are they that mentally unstable where they're playing two different lives? I don't think so. I think that if you have a kid and you're paying attention to your kid on a daily basis and you're talking to them and you're being a parent, how are you not seeing that change? There's got to be something that is off. Or there's no way. There's no way a kid can go home every day from school and is not happy and you don't see it.
Yeah.
If they are, then there is something psychologically going on that they can play two different roles like that every single day.
I mean, I think a lot of parents just probably don't ask the right questions and stuff, Like, I learned even early on in kindergarten, my son was being bullied, and he didn't, when we would ask him how was school, he'd say, good. But then, if you would ask different questions, like, what happened at playtime? I would ask, what was a good thing and a bad thing that happened today? Mm-hmm. So he didn't have to feel like he had to only tell me one or the other, right? And then you'd learn, like, I got punched in the stomach. I'm like, what? In kindergarten? Or, just wild shit was happening. So it was like, if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the answers. In fact, one kid in his class that we are friends with, the parents with, I told him what was going on with my son, and the dad was like, oh, I had no idea that stuff was happening. My son always says that, everything's fine. And then he went home and then hit me up like a few days later. He's like, oh, yeah, I asked my son more questions about this kid who's giving your son grief. And he said that he was giving him grief, too, and he pushed him on the playground, did all these things. It's like he had no idea. He had no idea because the kid just doesn't go home and tell him.
It is about the questions. I mean, it is every day. If somebody, even if I go home, my wife's like, how's my day? Sometimes I don't want to bring her day down by saying, like, if my day was not good. Yeah, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like, too, at a young age where kids come home, like, they forget about that, where they don't want to have the conversation with you of what's happening. So we have to keep reaching out until they feel comfortable with saying, even if they're not comfortable, eventually they're going to slip up and say something saying I got punched in the stomach today.
Yeah.
Because you just have to keep digging for it. But at the same time, again, I find it very wild that some of these kids that perform these things aren't showing it more in the household.
I think they are. I mean, you always ask. They do these follow-ups with the other students and stuff. Like, oh, what was Johnny like? And they're always like, oh, Johnny was a loner and he was weird and he would steal stuff and punch people, or Johnny didn't have any friends. It's like there was signs in all these cases. There was one dude who was he was 18. He wasn't in school anymore, but he just started filming himself on Snapchat committing crimes, like punching people at Walmart. Mm-hmm. Like he'd go to Walmart, hit someone in the face, and it escalated to the point where he did a drive-by shooting on a stranger on Snapchat at 18, killed the kid.
Oh, that's taking step by step to the extreme.
Yeah, and they interviewed his buddies after, and they were like, "Oh, what's he like? Like, what is?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, he's like weird and violent, and he's always been different." And like one of his good friends, I think he said he knew him for like 10 years or something, described him as weird and always been different. And it's like I think it's obvious. You probably know. You see some of these kids,
right.
Not school shooters, but like you probably know what these kids can be like.
Yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds. I think the thing is, too, of being able to be for sure. Like, you can't drive down the road and I can't look at you and say, hey, you look like a pothead.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull you over because you look like a pothead.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of like emo kids and whatever.
There's a thin line there where, I mean, like you said, some of these kids, like this recent kid, was interviewed by the FBI. Like, if you're interviewed by the FBI, something fucked up was going on.
Yeah,
there.
right.
Like, you just don't get interviewed by the FBI.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you probably did something on the internet or whatever.
How do you feel about like punishments for kids that are making these threats lately? Like, there's some places going to the extreme that are saying, hey, we don't care if you're a minor or not. We're fucking putting your ass in handcuffs. We're using our body cameras. We're going to put you out, and we're going to show that you're being handcuffed and put it in the back of a vehicle.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like the prison system doesn't make anybody better.
Right.
But I don't think it's unreasonable to totally expel these kids from school and say, like, hey, parents, you got to put them in private school now, or you got to, homeschool them, or you got to figure out something else out. But I don't know that really solves the problem. I mean, I think a threat is probably a crime, so maybe there is punishment to pay from a legal perspective, but I'm not sure you're going to actually make kids better by, locking them up or alienating them further.
No, I think it comes back to mental health. Like, there's a reason.
Maybe it's like, hey, you need a 6-day-a-week intensive therapy session.
Yes. I recently wrote a post about this because it is playing on everybody's minds, and it's like you talk about it, you see it, and I said, like, if a kid's in school and they are in middle school up to high school and you see everything going on right now and you still make a threat, or you make a list, or you make a drawing of anything that deals with like a school shooting, a bombing, or anything, right then you need to be mentally observed. Because I think that needs to be out there more, that there's got to be some kind of consequences. And at least we're showing then, hey, we are doing a full background check on this kid. We're getting into their minds. We're having these conversations with them. We're not letting them be around anybody else for a week or so to get it.
Yeah.
And I think also you could take a kid out, you could put them somewhere for a week, do some observations on them to figure things out. I think if you have a kid away from their parents, away from other people, they will start to speak more to you once they feel comfortable to you in a different environment. Maybe not, but at least it's something. We got to try something, because right now all the talk is just guns or take away guns.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the answer. I think we have to get into to these brains a little more.
Yeah, and I mean the whole idea of like types of guns being more dangerous than others, it's just baloney. Like if you've ever operated a handgun, you would know that it doesn't take more than 30 seconds at tops to reload.
Yeah. Why do cops have multiple magazines on them and use handguns?
Yeah, like,
because they're spitting out 10 or 12, dropping a mag, sticking one in, spitting out 10 or 12.
Yeah. Even if you're clumsy and never held a firearm before, you could reload the gun in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not, I don't think it's about ammo or capacity or the velocity of the bullets. Like, all that's just bogus.
Mm-hmm.
But, granted, at the same time, I don't think anybody needs to have a machine gun.
No.
Like, I don't think that anybody needs a machine gun. But yeah, I think the problem goes deeper. And, and therapy isn't punishment. And I think that's okay. If you do what you're saying, and that's just like, hey, separate the kid for a few days, put them in some intensive therapies, get them some help, some love, some care, some support.
Right.
And then see what the fuck's going on. You'll have a real good sense of that kid, I think, by that time. And what to do next, And maybe there are kids who, can't be rehabilitated. They're whatever, something's wrong with them. And then, there probably needs to be additional steps, but I don't know. It's crazy.
And I mean, once a kid does that, like, my process would be, like, once a kid makes that threat, okay, let's get them out for a week. Let's get them to a facility. Let's get into their minds. And then once we do that process, they should be checked in on once every week, just for a little while. Like, just to have somebody they could talk to. And somebody that is a psychologist that sees it every day, I believe they could pick out more than a parent can from a different aspect if we're seeing this kid go downhill more, or if we're seeing, hey, we're getting a light into this kid's mind that this isn't as bad. This isn't what you've seen. Let's make some changes.
Yeah, maybe he's fine. He's just, had a bad week. And I think there's, like, some studies that show about, like, suicide even. If you remove somebody from, if you stop someone from doing a suicidal act and put them out in a different environment for even a matter of hours or a day, they feel totally different generally the next day and, don't actually take action. So, it's like, if you can interrupt this person's thought pattern for just, a day, you might be able to really change the game for them.
That's a great to bring that up, because you see it all the time on TV and clips and YouTubes that come out. A person that is thinking suicide may have never seen a doctor, may have never talked to anybody about it. Yeah. They've been in their head with it. Mm-hmm. They get up on the side of a bridge. Some random person is walking by, talks to them for 5 or 10 minutes, shows that they care for them, then they get back down.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes that's all it takes is just recognizing
one person to recognize.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I also think that people are embarrassed by things like that. They don't want to talk. And we should get that out more. Like, everybody's fucked up in some way. Like, everybody has some issue. And that's what I've never been afraid to say. Like, I tell people all the time, like, when I was younger growing up, there was times I got a little bit out of control. And, I saw a psychologist, a therapist, probably 5 or 6 years just to figure out, like, man, why is his brain moving so fast? Like, why is he acting out before he's thinking? Yeah. What can we get on him? And I took Ritalin probably 5 or 6 years.
Oh, you had the good shit, huh?
Yeah, and I could still tell you today that, like, I remember back when I could feel it change me, like, in the classroom. And some people don't believe in medication, and that's fine, or they think it makes their kid a zombie, but there are points you have to make where a body is functioning in a different way than other people's bodies are functioning.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I couldn't go on a trip. My parents used to use poker chips, and the poker chips were worth different amounts of points.
This is where it all began.
This is ground zero for gambling. And depending, like, on the ride, if it was like a half-hour ride and I was good in the car, not like messing with my brother or driving everybody crazy, I might get a 5-point one. If we're going to, like, Myrtle Beach, that's like 6 or 8 hours away from here, every little while, then I would get a poker chip. Or if I went, like, a certain distance, I would get a bigger poker chip. Like, they use so many different things. But the thing was, they weren't afraid to take me to somewhere to get me the help I needed to help them understand me more, to me understand myself. Like, that's the biggest thing. You got to understand yourself.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of kids realize that they're different, but they feel like they're it can't be helped. Like they don't know why they're different. They just feel out of place, and they feel like there's no solution for it, and that's how it's going to be their whole life. And I think if they could talk to someone, they would probably feel very different about it. So, and, going back to it, I don't know how a squirrel led us here, by the way, but I would say at the end of the day, I think these kids probably just need someone to talk to most of the time, and the small percentage of kids who are just born to be violent and fucked up. I don't know. There's something else got to happen, and hopefully parents see their kids for who they are and realize that maybe they shouldn't have guns laying around. I mean, I have a safe that's biometric plus combination plus physical key. So like, unless my son has a blowtorch and he's getting into that thing by force, he's not getting in.
And that's how it should be. I'm the same way. Like, I mean, I've taken upon myself to put different locks that are high up that can't be reached in different areas, put them in safes that have 6 fingerprint passwords to them. Like, I've done everything on my end. And I mean, I would never be in a situation either where I used them and was like, oh yeah, I just left it laying around because I came home and too lazy. No, your mindset is as soon as you get home with it, you go put it away. It's not like a hat or a pair of shoes or a shirt you leave laying around.
Yeah.
But some people are irresponsible for that.
My dad carried two guns every day, his whole life, that I know, every day I was alive. So, and everywhere. I mean, one time we were crossing the border to Canada, and he was like, "Oh shit, I have my gun on me." So, like we were always around weapons, but he taught me at a young age about how to handle them, why they were dangerous, how to clean them, and I think I wouldn't teach my 7-year-old that, but I think at a certain age, education about the tool that they are is important too.
Right.
Because I think if you're curious and not knowledgeable, you're more likely to hurt yourself.
I've always looked at it that way. Like, I know Dad has them. What is it? What is it? Why does he hide something like that from me?
You don't want the curiosity and the lack of knowledge. That's dangerous.
Now, I'm a little more blunt than most parents. Like, and I don't know how you take this, but I sat my daughter down, and she's 7, and I set her down maybe when she was like 5 or 6. I've always taught her, like, Daddy's guns kill people. Like, if you misuse them, someone will get one mistake, it can kill somebody.
Right.
Like, you need to know, like, you can't make a mistake with something like this because that mistake is a deadly mistake.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, what can happen just randomly? What can happen if you misuse one of Daddy's guns? It could kill you. Like, that's the response I want.
Yeah.
Like, it can. Like, do you use guns to maliciously go? There's that fucking word again. Maliciously. To go out and kill people? No, that shouldn't be. But I mean, you could be handling it the best way as possible.
Mistakes can still happen.
Anybody
who's owned guns for more than like a few years has accidentally had something happen.
Right.
Like either like even if something simple like you went to fire and then you realize you didn't cock it and there's no gun in the chamber or there's no bullet in the chamber and you're like, oh shit. Right. Or you've had a jam or you were handling it and forgot there was one in there or something like that. People make mistakes. There was the classic video, you probably remember when we were growing up, that it was like a cop. It wasn't even that long ago, I think, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
You're about to talk about the training.
A cop doing a training video and he shoots himself in the foot.
I've seen one where a guy is doing a training and shot himself in the side of the leg. Like, mistakes happen no matter how good you are at something.
Even well-trained professionals. So yeah, especially kids who have no fucking clue what they're doing. Now, I never played with my dad's guns when he wasn't around. It wasn't like, because I wasn't curious, because he showed me what they were. And
you knew what they did.
I knew what they did, and I knew they were loud, and, that was that. But, I don't know.
But you can't correct stupid and fucked up people. Like, you can't go around saying, hey, you're a terrible parent and you're kind of stupid And we won't let you own one. Like, that's just not how society works.
It's not going to work.
It's not.
It's not going to work. You'd have to take drastic measures to take everyone's guns away in order for that to work. And that's just never going to fly in this country.
Like, you go take your driver's test and you're passing, but the driving person from the DMV is like, God, this person is stupid. Like, just by seeing them and talking to them.
Yeah.
Like, they're passing this test, but they're going to be so fucking bad out in the environment.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just keep their license from that just because they just seem like a stupid person.
You should be able to. We should give more power to
pass. Did not pass on mine.
Did not pass the vibe check. Yeah.
Speaking of like mental health and doing different things and being different, and is there anything that you do yourself or you have yourself that like tics or anything like that?
You know, I'm sure there's stuff that, you know, if you ask my wife this question, she'd probably come up with a list.
Right.
But
it's always good from the outside perspective.
Yeah. You know, self-awareness, maybe not so good. I don't know. I think I have a tendency to, I don't know if you'd call it like mental health issues or a tic or anything like that, but you know, I think I overestimate my own ability sometimes. Like, I think I'm gonna be good at something, and it can make me, you know, a little overconfident in some areas. But so I guess it's, you know, there's probably some mental health stuff in there somewhere. You know, my ego's probably too big, but
so is it better to say like, hey, I'm going to try something new. I'm probably going to suck at it. But then if you don't suck at it, then it's awesome, rather than saying, I'm going to try this.
No,
I'm
that's
gonna be
right.
good at it, and then you're not, and then it's such a letdown.
And that's exactly what I tell my son. Hey, whenever you're trying something new, you're going to be bad at it.
Right.
And if you're not, it's a surprise gift. But like, expect you're going to suck at everything you try when you first start.
And then if you don't, you're like, wow,
it's a surprise.
I succeeded.
But I don't think that way about myself. I'm like, yeah, I got this. Now there's some things I'm like, I'm never gonna even attempt to try it because I know I'm gonna suck so bad at it. Like if you were like, hey, you want to 1v1 me in basketball? I'd be like, no.
Right.
Nope. But you know, otherwise, like tics and stuff, I'm trying to think about it. I mean, we talked about leg shaking. I have some weird stuff where like I'll like scratch my arms in particular, like
just as something to do while
like
you're
as
thinking.
a sensation. I think like it's probably I don't know, something, but not a ton of that stuff. What about you though?
Oh my God, the list just
you got a list, huh?
It goes on. I mean, some of the biggest ones that affect me, like living wise, would be OCD.
Yeah.
But I'm only OCD with certain things.
Now, are you just like using OCD in the sense of like some people are like, oh, I'm so organized, I'm OCD, or
no.
like you're like actually,
No,
yeah, you have like things.
I'm more of, if I leave the house before my wife leaves the house in the morning, I'm fine. If it's a morning where she has to leave and my daughter leaves and I'm the only one there, that shit kicks in so bad because
you're stuck, right?
I'm going. Yes, Did I
check this?
Yes, that's how I am. Like I used to have like the lights. If there was light switches, it would be like a 1, 2, 3 off, 1, 2, 3 off, 1, 2, 3 off, sync off.
Oh, you're checking if it's dripping?
Checking if it's underneath of it. Doors. My gosh, I've probably loosened so many doors around the house by just checking the handle so hard. Yeah, and I don't know how I got into it. It just happened, and there's really no way out of it.
You still do all those things?
Yeah, but so what?
Now, in the moment, right? If we go somewhere right now and you start checking the door, and I'm like, "What the fuck you doing, bro?" Can you think yourself out of it at all? Or it's just like you have to do it or you feel very terrible the rest of the day?
I have to do it. I think it becomes a routine. I have an addictive personality. So I don't even know if it's about the OCD, but once I start doing it, like I could become like anything within a couple weeks if I start.
You could pick up a new one even. Right.
So one thing I've found out that's a lot easier, if we go away, I take pictures of things that bother me. So I'm not taking the time like, hey, this sink is the sink I check all the time. Boop, take a picture, and that way if it comes back in my mind, I'll be like, oh, here's the picture that says it. I mean, I've brought up, my wife thinks some of it's a little crazy, but then she does agree with the part like the curling iron. If you take a picture of your outlet that you plug your curling iron in, she's like, that is pretty good if we're going away for a week. Then I don't have to worry about that in my mind if I left my curling iron on. You just bring up the picture of your...
That one's clutch.
Yeah. Like to take a picture of something. Or if you're leaving, you think you're a person that leaves your garage door open. Like when you're leaving, take a snap picture of your garage door, and then you don't have to worry about
Useful mental health issues.
Right. Like I think about this back at Home Alone. When they left the kid at home.
Yeah,
what?
I mean, yeah.
How do you fucking leave a kid?
Take a picture of all the kids.
Take a group picture before you leave. We got all the kids.
Check. Yeah. Oh, shit, Johnny? Where's Johnny?
He's not in my picture. But I would say leg shaking is another huge one. We've talked about this before. Actually, I'm not doing it today too much, but I think I've been thinking about it in this conversation, so I haven't been doing it. But I'm a huge leg shaker at work. I'm a huge leg shaker when we go somewhere, riding in the car, and it's only my right leg. And I mean, it's gotten so bad, like in the movie theater, my wife will like put her fist on top of my leg and be like, stop. People at work, like I've told you this before, the office next to me, every time my leg shakes, it clicks in the other room.
Right.
In the other office next to me, and they can hear it. I've put signs up at my work that say, like, don't shake your leg to try to remind me. But I'm telling you, man, it's not just like a couple of minutes. It's like nonstop going. And I've always wondered, does it wear me out during the day?
Yeah.
Like how much I'm doing.
Burning cows.
And the ones
I'm cutting. It's not a habit. I'm just cutting.
One of the best stories is we went to a play, and we sat in one of those like little cool balconies where there was like 6 people, and it was me, my wife, and my daughter. And my wife looked at me and put her hand on my leg. She's like, you got to stop. And I'm like, what? Like, why am I bothering you? Like, I'm sitting, you're on this side of me, my right leg shaking. She's like, the whole balcony is shaking. You're shaking the whole balcony. And I could be real annoying, like on a plane ride, because like if you're sitting on this side of me and my leg's just gone, but I don't know how to stop it without thinking about it.
What about here's one I think a lot of people talk about is hoarding or purging. Most people are one or the other. Do you find yourself keeping a lot of crap? Or thinking, I could use that later? Or do you like getting rid of stuff?
I think it builds a little bit, and then I'm like going through, like I used to keep like tickets to events I went to, or I was a big receipt keeper in case something happened and I forgot about it. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like going through my drawers maybe like a year or two later, and I'm like, this fucking drawer's a mess, and I just don't even look at it and just dump it all out. But at that time I'm like, okay, keep receipts. You get 30 days to take something back if something happens. Because if you don't, they give you shit about it. And they're like, did you even buy it here? So I wouldn't say like, I don't know how some of these people get into like the hoarding of just sitting there, open a bag of chips, eating a bag of chips, and saying, oh, throw it over my shoulder in the living room and wait till the next bag of chips and doing the same thing.
I bet there's a hoarder somewhere listening that's like, I can't imagine why somebody would check the faucet after it's already off.
but see, that's why we're all different, and we shouldn't be shy about the things that we do, because there's so many people out there with the same mentality that you have. We're all different in looks, we're all different in maybe thoughts, but tons of us do the same things and go through the same things.
We have a lot of human behaviors. You know, I think another one is with like hoarding or getting rid of stuff. This actually question came up recently in our house. Our dog, he got like a cut on his back. We don't know where from, probably like outside somewhere. Surface cut. But it's been likely bleeding, right? And like it's scabbed up and he's okay. We took him to the vet. They said he was fine. But it's still like he'll brush up against something and there'll be dog blood on it.
Oh.
And so the question comes out: if something gets dog blood on it, do you just throw it away? Or if something gets poop on it, like if your animal poops on it, do you just throw it away? And it's like it's become kind of a measure of how much you really care about an item. Like if this item got poop on it, would you throw it away? That's kind of like the question in our household. So in our house, what I've learned, almost everything could be thrown away. like carpets, pillows, any textile, that's just trash.
Right.
If it gets poop or blood on it, you just throw it away. I mean, I'm not washing a pillow that's got dog blood on it. I'm going to throw that pillow away.
Yeah, I agree.
Just get a new fucking pillow. But, my dad's signed Mickey Mantle portrait. If that got dog blood on it, yeah, I guess I would clean it, right? But I don't know, right? Like, so that's become kind of a measure in our house about getting rid of shit.
Yeah, everything that doesn't have a value to it is disposable.
Well, it's hard. Like, those things cost money. Like, a rug that we bought for the family room could be $200. But if it gets dog blood on it, or the dog shits on it and there's a smear on it, I mean, I guess I'm going to try to clean it maybe, but it's never the same. You always, my younger daughter is crawling and walking still, crawling and falling and holding, she's got her hands on the carpet all the time. My kids play on the carpet. If there's dog blood on it, I'm going to be thinking about that.
So then you look at the bigger picture, and I've always thought about this because we recently flew somewhere, and when you go to an airport and you have a wait, and you see kids everywhere, like on the grounds playing and things like that.
The whole world has dog blood on it.
Yeah. Like even adults are like sitting on the ground against a pole charging their phones.
Gross.
Or you see adults laying, and I've been this adult, like on a layover, like put my bag down and lay on the ground. Do you realize like how many people are going to the bathroom, walking through there? There's human feces on the bottom of your shoe.
The amount of people that don't wash their hands in the bathroom, by the way, that one blows my mind.
Do you wash your hands?
Every time.
Oh.
You don't?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. The amount of people that go take a shit and then just walk out, I'm like, what are you doing?
Do you look at a male differently? Okay, if a person comes out of a stall from taking a shit and doesn't wash their hands, yes, I find that weird.
That's weird.
But I do find it in society when I go to like sporting events or concerts and things like that. 75% of the guys taking a piss aren't washing their hands when they're walking out.
Yeah, I think that's weird. I mean, even if you're not touching your dick,
right?
Let's just say that you're not touching it. You're unzipping. That part's probably pretty clean. But you're probably flushing. Maybe it's an auto flush. Maybe you can get away. But at best case scenario, you're still touching a door.
Yeah.
That everyone else has touched with people who didn't wash their hands after they took a shit. So, I mean, even after I wash my hands, I'm like paper towel on the door handle. Or trying to kick it outward,
Is pee contaminated?
Actually, pee is sterile. When it comes out of you, it is sterile. It is clean. In an emergency situation, obviously, you could drink it. You can.
I mean, people pee for like a.
You can clean a wound or wash your hands with it.
Jellyfish stings, they say. So, like,
but it's got other things in it that you may not want to have on your hands, like urea and stuff. It stinks, right? It smells like piss.
Right.
But
so if I
technically it's sterile.
If I peed right on my hand and shook your hand and you didn't go wash your hands for a couple hours, like you're not going to get some kind of sickness.
I wouldn't get sick, I don't think.
So maybe that's the logic behind it. I don't know. I don't see.
But fecal matters. Yeah, that's a.
Yeah, I don't get like all blown up on somebody when I'm at a.
I mean, I'm never like wash your hands, asshole.
Right.
Like I'm not like that, but like I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, I've been to events or been drinking a little too much before and go to the bathroom and not wash
by the same
my
token,
hands.
If I'm out camping or at a fire and you got piss in the woods, I'm not like, hey guys, do you have a hand sanitizer? So like I get it, but like if there's a sink right there,
there's a sink, you should
just wash your hands. And if you're taking a shit, you should wash your hands. But yeah, people don't. But yeah, I think. That could be another one with OCD folks or just in general, like some people are real germophobic.
So this podcast is so funny to me because it's hitting so many like serious, not serious topics, but that's how it is. And we're talking about this, and I've had a conversation with my wife, and this cracks me up. And we don't have to discuss what we do or we don't do, just our thoughts. But like, how many people you think pee in the shower when they get a shower?
Everybody. It's it's supposed to be the best place to pee in terms of cleanliness for yourself.
Really?
Yes. And water rushing down. It's a safe, sterile, clean place to pee. And all the drain. Anybody who knows anything about plumbing, all the drains go in the same place.
Exactly.
So like, I mean, now shitting in the shower is a little different.
Yeah, but like if I'm ready to get a shower for the day, and that is like one of the things. It takes me like 5 minutes to get a shower, but it's the best feeling when you're cleansing yourself. And I may not have to pee at all, but once I get into the shower within 30 seconds,
Everybody
I'm like, oh
pees
shit,
in the
I gotta
shower.
pee.
Everybody pees in the shower.
See, my wife is totally against it.
What?
Yeah, she is totally. She says she has never done it. She won't do it. And I'm like, what? Like,
that doesn't make any sense.
Nobody even knows if you do it or not.
It's totally
and you
private.
would still say you don't do it and won't do it.
She probably is. She probably is like, I'm a lady. I don't pee in the shower.
But I think that one's a big one. I think anybody that tells you they haven't peed in the shower has lied to you, because it's just your body.
Well, I've just figured out your wife's a liar.
Yeah. She's going to know this today, too. Listen, Sean says this, so I know you're lying.
Yeah, everybody does it. Everyone does it.
But I've been in some weird situations before. I mean, I'm on anxiety medicine, and I didn't go on that till like 4 or 5 years ago, and it started to kick in when I started to travel a little longer for work and took a different position. And I've never been a medicine type of person, but I was like, man, this is a weirder feeling than I've ever felt, and I don't want to feel this feeling all the time, and why not? There's things out there for it.
Yeah.
But I get, I wouldn't say panic attacks, but there is times like if I'm driving to work and sometimes the car gets smaller on me. It's because I start like thinking a lot, and when you don't have somebody right there to like talk to it about, or something crazy is on your mind, or those type things. I've had that before where and again, I don't think it's a panic attack. Maybe it is, but yeah, like I just need some air, like where the surrounding feels like it's getting smaller the more I keep thinking about something.
Yeah. You ever hang out with like you got some good friends that are people from other countries or people of color?
Yeah.
And when they're talking about like, their life and how things for them are very different. Mm-hmm. And you're like, damn, I'm just the white guy. That never happened to me before. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what you're talking about, because that's never happened to me.
Right.
Sometimes I feel like that, because I don't want to say like my mental health is perfect and I'm not whatever, but like I don't have a lot of these things. And so every time I hear somebody talk about that, it's just like a wild thing I've never even thought about.
Right. And that's why, like, I don't give a... That's where people have to have the mentality. It was like... And this goes back to kids that say these things and people that do things. Like, you have to have, like, I don't give a fuck mentality and express the things that you do feel. Because people like you that maybe don't feel it as much or not, like, people are ashamed or shy to bring up, well, I do feel this way because this person never feels this way. But it's okay to feel this way. Like, it's okay. It's okay to be a little fucked up. That's how I look at it.
I mean, I think we all are, like you said, different levels of fucked up. And this stuff doesn't necessarily make you more or less. Right. I have other personality traits that probably make me a fucked up person. But
yeah, it's
like my general lack of care about anybody who doesn't care about me. I couldn't give a fuck about like 99% of the world.
But like you said too, like there's where things change again, because you said earlier your wife might have a different aspect of things that she sees. So even to somebody that you might not go through like different anxiety, different stress, or like different things that I recognize, like somebody on the outside could recognize it.
Totally. Yeah.
Like you may be really good at controlling your feelings, you think, but somebody else recognizes from the outside,
no doubt,
something different. So that's where it becomes mentality and mental health is so crazy, and I think that's why it's so broad that we can't just pinpoint things.
Yeah, we don't really know where this stuff stems from in the brain. You can't look at a picture of the brain and say, oh, this person, is going to commit a crime. Or this person is, has this.
Right. My number one goal was, when I graduated, going through college, I always wanted to be a psychologist.
Really?
Yeah. I got into it once I saw a psychologist growing up. Like, from that point on, he helped me and things,
I can
things
do this.
are better. And I was like, man, this is a cool job.
Yeah.
I want to help people too.
Yeah.
Once I got my bachelor's in psychology and I found out what you had to do to be a psychologist, I'm like, all right, let's take a different route of how I can help people and do things.
Yeah.
And then I think of today, I'm like, at the same time, psychologists are somebody that sits, they study, they go through different things, they read about the past, but it's still a person talking to a person.
Yeah.
You still have to go about making a connection with somebody. You could be a good psychologist, but a fucking terrible person and not make a connection with somebody. It's all words. It's all words and how you say it, which really throws me off.
What do you think about an AI psychologist?
I mean, I guess some people it could work, but it's still that human being that you want to...
You feel like it's the connection with the person on a personal level that makes it effective? Not necessarily the black and white advice or the techniques?
I mean, a psychologist is a human being that has feelings. Don't tell me that every psychologist that you sit with isn't feeling stress or anxiety or they have something fucked up themselves.
But does that make them better at their job?
Does that make them better at their job?
The fact that they are human and have those things. Here's an example.
Yeah, because they could put on a show for you.
My son said he was feeling, like he was having trouble breathing, and he was describing what I thought was like stress. He was under some stress, and I was like, okay, well, how about we practice just taking a couple deep breaths? And I showed him, 5-5-5, or I think they do 7-7-7. But for little kids, I was like, okay, 5-5-5. Breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds out of your mouth.
Right.
And he closed his eyes and did that a few times, and he was like, wow, I feel so much better. Well, there you go. And I just taught him a technique. It didn't require necessarily a ton of empathy in order to teach him that. I mean, I do have empathy for my son, but right. It didn't require that. A chat bot literally could have taught him to breathe like that.
So did it take you 8 years of college to tell him that?
No.
It took you 30 seconds to see it on Google or on a TV show or something.
Yeah. So could a AI do that job? I mean, maybe not all of it, not all aspects, but I wonder how that'll progress. There's certain things we talked about before. Doctors, a lot of doctors suck. Dealing with doctors sucks. Waiting in the fucking waiting room for the doctor to give you just 10 minutes of their fucking time sucks.
Right.
If there's an AI that could do it better, that can actually consider all the medical history that you ever had, be up to date on the research study that took place yesterday, that has all the information about drugs and contraindications and all that stuff, versus a doctor who, may not have done any study in the last 25 years. I think AI has a lot of promise in medicine, and I wonder if it translates to psychology.
I don't know if it's true. I saw what is it? And I'm terrible with places and saying things, but what is it? 3 Mile Island or something?
Yeah.
They're getting ready to possibly
Microsoft is going to
open up to help with AI production.
Correct. Yeah, the power draw from AI data centers is tremendous. So
I think AI has a lot of potential.
It's going to change everything.
And then you go back to where it's all about, and a great example, when I smoked back in the day, and I would go to the doctor, and the first thing they say, do you drink or smoke?
Nah.
And I always say no. I don't want them to judge me. You're a nurse. You're a doctor.
Well, there's also punishment of being honest here. We talked about that earlier. The punishment of telling your doctor that you smoke is, well, first of all, they're going to shame you probably, and then tell you all the reasons why it's going to kill you and all that. Which
insurance.
But insurance. Mm-hmm. Insurance goes up. And back when we were younger, insurance could cancel you for shit like that.
That's why I think threat assessments are a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Because you sit with somebody that has made a threat, and you say, okay, let's sit down here. Let's
Yeah.
get into your mind.
Are you going to shoot the
Are
school?
you going to shoot somebody? Like, do you want to? Are you feeling like? No.
An idiot could
Okay,
pass
there's
that.
a no.
An idiot could pass that test.
Right, where AI could specifically like come up with these questions that work around
Yeah.
like past and feelings and things like that, and that's where I think some of those photos that come up where you can really tell somebody has some mental disability, where you see a photo different than I do.
Oh, those blob pictures?
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
Right, where you might see a butterfly, but I'm over here seeing, oh my god, there's a bat that's about to fucking suck blood out of somebody. Yeah, like I think those pictures, those pictures bring it out a little more. But sitting there asking somebody, can you please admit on a piece of paper that you want to kill other people?
Yeah.
Like, that shit is so whack.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Never gonna
that.
happen. So yeah, I wonder if AI is going to change the game on that. I think it will.
There's so much information going into one thing that it's almost like a endless mind that could come up with things that we, as one human or a group of humans, cannot figure out.
There's like stages for AI, and right now we're in like the dumbest stage of progression, but which is just it studies words and knows how to put words together. It doesn't really understand what any of it means. The
Right.
AIs today don't really have an understanding of anything.
But this is where it's different, because you're a computer guy, and right now you see it as like such a beginning stage because you know computers, you work with computers. To me, I'm like, holy shit, AI is fucking amazing.
It's still so amazing and so valuable. I use it every day for work and I mean, sometimes, but I sometimes have it create bedtime stories for me and my son, where he will tell me the plot of the story or characters, and then put that into to ChatGPT, and it'll create a whole story.
Right. I started doing that once you told me. It's awesome.
So good. It's so good.
And literally.
But this is the beginning. Like, the next stage is where AIs have the knowledge of like all human existence, and they have the knowledge, the brain power capacity that is equal to or greater than all human existence.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's what they call super AI, which is basically, it will be smarter than we could ever be as an entire species, as an entire universe. Like, we will not be the smartest creatures on the planet Earth.
I believe it.
And that's going to be a different place for people. But.
So this is where it comes back to, where a psychologist could go in and have a program with AI. Sure. And they could put in, I have a 12-year-old male that blah, 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 has drawn a picture with 6 kids from his school, shooting them up, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And
it prints out a thing for him, like a threat assessment, but is more based to his age, to his threat, to his
They
mind.
could do that today.
Yeah, like, I think that's where everybody should not be using the same threat assessment. It should be.
They?
Well, yeah, everybody uses the same. I mean, threat assessments. If you have a company that does a threat assessment, they're using the same threat assessment all the time, I would think.
What you mean. I see.
Where
you're assessing all the kids with one assessment.
you're assessing all his kids, all adults, and like places
Right.
with. They're using the same threat assessment at that facility.
Yeah.
Where AI could bring it down to individualized threat assessments.
Yeah. And the more you train the AI on the kids and the students or the people, whatever, the better answers can give. Like, even right now, like ChatGPT now remembers your past conversations that you've had with it and starts to build a memory of you and your job. So, like, I can open up my ChatGPT and ask it a question and get a totally different answer than what you would get based on our previous chats with the AI. And that'll continue to evolve, where it really knows you on an individual level.
That's pretty
and
crazy.
if you fed it stuff like your student records documentation, like you probably have software that keeps all the records for kids and notes and teacher complaints and shit like that.
Right.
If you were to feed that into the AI, it would have a better profile for these students.
But then it's trying to find out how the AI can keep these things secure.
Yeah, I mean, people do worry about that. My sister works at a bank, and she's not allowed to even open it up on her computer. And like, people are real worried about it. Cybersecurity is a big threat for sure, but there is a version of ChatGPT Enterprise that you can self-host. So it's like in your own cloud server, you own the data, it doesn't leak out. So I think that can be mitigated to some degree. You could make an offline version where it's literally not even connected to the internet. So if you trust your current, database for student record keeping, you would be able to trust ChatGPT in the right scenario.
I mean, that's what the cloud. I mean, everybody.
But
Well, I mean, anything out there that seems like anything with a password and a name can be hacked by anybody.
oh, bro,
I feel like at any time, like
No doubt.
anything, no matter how secure it is, if it's a whole different program you're paying for, and they tell you,
you know how you go to checkouts at restaurants and stuff, or you go to the doctor's office and the person at the desk is sitting across from you and their computer's the back of their computer or the back of their monitor is facing you.
right?
And a lot of times you could see the USB ports that are back there, like where you plug in.
Right.
You could, in 2 seconds, load up a thumb drive that had malicious software on it that would automatically run in the background without them clicking anything. And you simply plug it into their computer, and you now have access to everything on their computer and everything that's networked through their computer. So, like, if I walked up to you or if you're a teacher and you have a computer at your desk, and student A, walks up to you to ask you a question and slips something in your computer while you're not looking at me, I have access to everything on that computer and everything that you are logged in that you have access to. So, like, nothing's safe.
Right.
Physical access is the weakest.
I mean, even if you say, like you brought up bank earlier, if you work at a bank and you had this stuff and you could put just like a clip or something like that into a bank, you could get everything of anybody's like accounts.
No doubt.
Is there anything safe? Is a computer, anything out there safe?
There's been instances where offline devices get hacked. It's not connected to the internet, and remotely hacked. So not from physical access. Obviously, if you have something like, if I had a computer here that was not hooked up to the internet,
Right.
and you were sitting next to me, you could hack it with, like we just talked about, a USB drive or something. But if you have something that's not even connected to the internet, but is in a local network, meaning like inside this house, it can talk to other offline devices locally. Like, think of your smart devices sometimes are like that, but like your Roomba. It's not connected to the internet, but it's networked within your home. Stuff like that can get hacked because it's connected to other devices that might be connected to the internet. So there's a prime example. When I was younger, I knew a guy who's now since gone to federal prison, but he infiltrated a beta machine, like a testing machine at Microsoft corporate. And he did this. This machine was offline, was not connected to the internet. But he did this because he infiltrated another networked machine inside of Microsoft that was connected to the internet, that then was networked through that other one. So he was able to get into this other remote PC that's not even online.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, not much is safe. People hack IP cameras, security cameras all the time. Like if you got cameras inside or outside your house, those are super vulnerable. Ring cameras are vulnerable. Obviously our phones, everything. I mean,
Well, I think
there's no click stuff too. Malware that you don't even have to click on. They just discovered a new one the other day for Android devices that someone could send you a text message. You don't have to click on anything. If you just read that text message, you now have malware on your phone. They could see everything that you have on your phone.
I've been getting some like random text messages from people that are like, "Hey, what's up? How have you been?" And it makes me think like, "Oh, who is this?" And if I click on it, and they're like, "You don't remember me?" and send me a picture, and I click on that picture, then they automatically have like access.
It's possible, yeah. You can embed malware in any other file, but they're even embedding malware, shellcode malware without any clicks in the raw text message.
How normal do we think it is, like Facebook, and we have noticed this so many times, that you can talk about something just randomly, and you can get on Facebook and then there's an ad for it. Why do people overlook this and just find it as like something normal?
Well, there's two things. There is ad networks that have recently come out to say that they do listen for keywords. They don't necessarily record the audio. They process it with a machine, listen for keywords, and then deliver ads based on it. But even before that technology, there's the actual truth behind it is, I think, more interesting, and it's called machine learning. If I buy a slip and slide from an ad on Facebook, I see the ad, I click it, I buy the thing. Facebook knows I bought the thing, and Facebook knows everything else I've clicked on, read, or been interested in on Facebook or Instagram, and even third-party websites. If I've gone to another website that has a Facebook tracking code on it, which most websites have these days, Facebook also has access to that data. What did I do on that website? If I go to CNN, Facebook knows what article I read on CNN. So Facebook has all this data, right? And if 100 people buy this slip and slide, they look at all the data from all the people who bought that slip and slide, and what did they do the last 2-3 days, 2-3 hours, 2 or 3 minutes before they bought it? And the machine automatically learns all the similarities between these people and all the things they did, the habits they did, even the physical location where they were. Where were they walking? Were they going into a Walmart? And builds a model and then finds new people who match those behaviors before purchasing a slip and slide to find potential customers for that slip and slide. And so what's more interesting is that humans actually are 1,000% more fucking predictable than we like to think we are. We're a lot less unique than we think we are. So yeah, you might have said, oh boy, I really love to buy a slip and slide, and you see a slip and slide ad. But what actually happened was probably in the last 2 or 3 days leading up to that, you clicked on articles, saw shit, the weather was hot, you went to Walmart, you saw some sales on slip and slides, all these other things happened that made you want to buy a fucking slip and slide before you even said it out loud, and Facebook just happened to deliver that ad to you.
With all that and going back, and we can't stop school shooters that the FBI interviewed a year ago.
No, that's right. Honestly, you're right on. Like Facebook put out a thing really early on in the days when the Messenger just came out, the separate Messenger app.
Right.
They put out a research that showed that they can confidently tell when people are going to get married or break up, based on the messages that they send through Messenger leading up to that. So like the AI models and the machine learning models are so good at predicting human behavior because humans are predictable, that we should be able to use it for kids. Now the thing is, any data collection for children is severely frowned upon by any court in privacy law. So they don't collect data on kids under 12. There's a law called COPPA, I think. I can't remember. Where it's like you can't do that. So, yeah.
Like, you would think there would be a database, and this probably wouldn't happen all the time, but everything can tell. You could tell if you're a male, you're what age, you're a female, where you're from, all this stuff looking up. If you have a 15 or 16-year-old kid that has a dark mind that's thinking these things, that mean a lot of that's going to come out through their phone, their messages, what they're looking up. And you would think there'd be a database that'd be like, hey, this is a red flag. This is all this kid does.
Yeah, and it may not even be the obvious stuff, dude. Like going back to the dumb concept with a slip and slide, if someone goes to, a Jeep dealership, if 100 people go to a Jeep dealership and then next week buy a slip and slide, Facebook will build a connection between those two activities. So it could be things that are not even obvious. Like, yeah, if a kid's looking up, how do I kill my friends at school? Like, yeah, that'll trigger some red flags, and even their internet service provider should log that stuff. But
and this is crazy to me that we're having this conversation with two people that are nothing to anybody. That we're just
speak for yourself.
Well, I'm just saying we're normal human beings that nobody really looks upon us at every day to see if we're trying to change the world. But we have the debate going on right now, and it's like the only thing we hear about violence and gun violence is take guns or not take guns. But we can sit here and have a conversation about how AI can do this, how we can try to catch people, but
the world's not ready for it, man. There's
right.
Too many old people who aren't ready for it.
but it just seems like there's so many options that we could look into as such a country that's so far ahead with technology and things that we're just looking at the most plainest thing in sight to try to stop things from happening.
Yeah.
That we're not digging deeper and using the deeper resources
The
that we have.
tools are there. Yeah. Facebook would probably tell better than threat assessments if there's going to be a school shooter.
Right.
Yeah.
Kids can't hold things in either. I feel like there's always something somebody else knows. It's like
they're not discreet.
It's like little kids that they like surprises, but they also just like, give me that shit. Like, I want this. Like, I don't need a surprise for it all the time.
Yeah.
So you can't. There's always somebody you're speaking to, or you feel like you have confidence in to tell your feelings. That, I mean, maybe that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think that would help if they did.
But I mean, all in all, I feel like only things can get better, and I think from the beginning of this conversation, this podcast, whether we had some like fun talks and good talks, it is a very serious topic, but at the same time, people just need to know if you're a little different or a little fucked up, that like you're not alone. Yeah. Like whether it's big or small, like you could talk to people about it. Like, I don't care if people know if I have tics or if I have OCD. And you might think I'm a little crazy. That's fine, but that's just you as a person. It's just another thing to try to hide it from somebody that causes to think you're different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in society we have a lot of problem around fear and shame.
Mm-hmm.
And not I don't think people are really equipped with how to deal with being different, and they don't want to deal with shame, right? So they try to avoid it at all costs. So I think that's why. But, I'm pretty shameless. Like, I think I talked about it before. Like, if I'm getting the mail, I don't care if I'm out in my fucking, pajamas with my shirt off and my hair looking a mess. But I know people who like would not go outside of their own house for fear that their neighbors might see them looking anything but perfect.
For that 2 minutes of walking to the mailbox and back, they don't want somebody to see a different perception of them. They want to keep the same perception all the time.
I'm walking out there like Tony Soprano in my robe,
But how many people like, you think about that too? Like, I don't think you can overlook things. And like, if a kid's at school or somebody's in a different place and they draw up something and it is like gruesome and it's vicious and it's something that could happen and it has people around them, and you give a threat assessment and you're saying like everything's okay, this kid's answering the questions, there's a reason they drew that. They are looking, they're asking for help in a different way.
Yeah.
It's got to be more than just sitting down with a kid or an adult and saying, oh, they answered all these questions right. Let's go back to the factor of why they did it. Because it's not to sit down with you and do an assessment. They're asking for somebody to sit down and have a conversation with them to see why they did.
Why are they feeling this way? Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're in society and you know everything that's happened around you, why would you even think about making that drawing or making that threat?
Yeah.
Like, you're asking for help.
Yeah. They got to know that there's going to be some consequence if someone else sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, they're doing it in school oftentimes. It's like if they really wanted to be discreet about it, they would do it in their bedroom and burn it afterwards or something,
Right.
But they're bringing it to school, they're drawing it in school, they want somebody to see it.
That's where the consequence almost comes at what is a fine line. Like, if you do something like that, okay, you're probably not going to go to jail because you're going to be too young. But we are going to take you off somewhere, and you're going to be at a facility, and you're going to have to answer to other people than just a 1.5 hour thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be, and then it's going to fall back on the parent saying, oh my God, my kid just got taken away for a week at a facility. Like, what are we doing wrong? What did we miss? What do we need to do better? And I think that's it, rather than just doing that assessment, sending them home to where they came from, where it all started anyways, with no help.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta have some.
But then, everybody's going to say, well, it takes money. It takes this. We spend so much money on dumb shit that, like, this is...
You ever hear about the Air Force mugs?
No.
Oh, look this one up. I don't have the exact numbers, but we spent something like, I think, an average of $1,500 or something on these specialty mugs for the Air Force. And they would break so often, the lids and handles would fall off. And they had to replace so many of them that I think we ended up spending like $3 million on mugs or something. Yeah. Some absurd amount of money.
So you're saying, like, if you just put the amount of money into it in the first place, to make them a little better than...
Well, I'm saying we don't need to spend $1,500 on mugs. That's a single mug.
Just one mug. Single mug.
$1,500. Like, get these bitches some Stanleys or something,
Exactly. Or have, like, an insurance policy on a damn mug.
Dude, what are you talking about? $1,500. This thing better cook a meal.
Right. I mean, there should be, and this is my personal opinion, there should be government facilities everywhere around for, like, mental health. Like, we've had so many pop-up tents when COVID came out. That was no problem.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we have a problem right now with threats and shit. Let's put up some pop-up tents and let's take these kids to different places and okay, let's do evaluations on you then. We're going to put you through this because right now it is a disease that's going around, whether it's real or not. It's just like COVID, but this is becoming more of a thing where it's spreading. It's spreading all over the country in different counties, different states. All right, well, if this is what we're going to do, then...
Pop-up therapy sessions.
Pop-up therapy sessions. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the infrastructure to do the COVID stuff, so
right.
We could do the same. Yeah, I think just people want to pretend it doesn't exist in their neighborhood, in their area, their town, and then it does, and then they want to go back to normal. Like, we've had multiple threats here in this county.
Yeah.
And we don't do literally anything about it. But the other thing is the government's not very efficient at doing anything.
And that comes into play too, where there's been a couple of states and counties I've seen that had to shut down schools for a whole day to make sure they do the right background checks, the right checks to make sure that threats. Well, then other kids see that, like, shit, they shut down a whole school.
Sounds great.
For a day for that.
Yeah.
Well, let's try it here.
Yeah. There's also that stuff, like people who are the kids who are just trying to fuck around and get out of school, like they're calling a bomb threat or something. I mean, that happened when I was in school.
Oh, yeah.
Called in bomb threats all the time. I never did.
Bomb
threats were a thing. They were popular.
Yeah, bomb threats have been around forever in schools to get out for a little bit.
There was a guy on the internet who, again, I kind of knew he was known as the guy who would swat people and call in bomb threats. He just across the country, people would put in requests for him to call in bomb threats to their school. And it was just to get out of things or their work, and he was just a bomb threat guy. Or he would swat people, which is, you familiar with swatting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he would just you didn't like somebody, call this guy, he'll swat this person.
And I mean, things can be done from everywhere. I mean,
yeah.
I think it was Virginia. They're like looking all around trying to find out which kid in which school was doing it, and it ends up coming out from Alabama.
Yeah, not even
like, you can't even. It's not even local.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the one that was recent out here was like they called in bomb threats throughout 3 states. Mm-hmm. It was Virginia, Maryland, and West Virginia. And
then it just kept working its way around, where once it got on social media, kids were sending it to each other in different states, and it was like, oh shit, is that our state?
Right.
And it's like 500 miles away, but now we're shutting down schools. We're doing investigations in this state because the kids are sending it around. Is it coming from one of our kids? No, it's coming from 3 states over. That's not even... Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't know if you can even call it as a fad right now. Like, is that what it is? Like, is it the thing to do? Like, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, how do you differentiate just, like, the kid who's fucking around to the kid who's serious?
It's taking a lot of damn resources, though. That's the thing.
It does. That's what I said. The government's not very efficient at anything. And, like, these mental health facilities you're talking about, they shut down a lot of those because they were not efficient or effective. They weren't good at helping people recover, and they ended up just being long-term homes for the mentally unfit. And then they couldn't sustain that business model. So, like, honestly, we need I mean, I think there has to be, private folks willing to create this as a business. But then where does the money come from? Who do you charge? Do you charge parents to help them with their children? I mean, the right families would probably pay for help for their kids, like your mom and dad did for you, I guess, when you needed help when you were younger. But a lot of these kids don't have the support or financial means at home, so they wouldn't pay. So who's going to pay?
Right.
No one's going to pay. So there's no private, business around this, and then there's no result.
There's got to be programs for it. I mean,
yeah.
And this is off the wall, and this was like one of the last things is like when a person's a pedophile.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm not going into that, but like if a person's a pedophile and they're a pedophile and they've done it, my gosh, you can get on the internet and you could search and it pops up where they exactly live.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think shouldn't be broad out, but if a kid is coming from California and he has had some past,
I see, like something that carries in his record, right?
Yes, like where if he comes all the way over to Maryland or West Virginia, sometimes we miss that where it follows. Like that's a red over top this kid that's coming to you. Like,
dude, there's so many things in our society where that does not happen where it should. I mean, with prison, with felons or other criminals, people out on parole. There's people who are on parole in one state and have somehow made it to another state, and the local police out there don't know anything about the parole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like it's so much it doesn't carry over like that.
And then they got to be careful. I mean, I think we have the means to do anything we want, but when does it get too personal into somebody's personal life? That's where the line's hard to be drawn.
You get back to Minority Report, right? Like, okay, let's say you play a lot of fucked up video games, and now you have like some tendencies that an AI or software or model might determine you as a threat, even though you're totally not.
Right.
Like, I might draw a scene from a graphic, violent video game like Call of Duty. It doesn't mean I'm going to shoot kids in my school, but if I have a software that's like looking for violent drawings, maybe it would flag me. So like it's hard. It's definitely hard. Yeah.
Like the person that created the movie Saw. That's a fucked up person.
Fucked up. Yeah.
But they're not out like killing people.
They're probably not. They're probably not.
Right.
They're probably just got a dark, twisted mind.
But that is a dark, twisted mind that would be flashing red on everything.
Yeah, every model's like, this guy, get him out of here. But
in the end, I think that people just need to be more open with themselves, be more comfortable, and we as a society need to take people in that just want to talk about that they're different. Like, it's okay to be different because we all are different. And I think that's what we need to push it into schools. We need to push it everywhere, that like every person around you has something different about you, about them, and that we should make it more open in a society about the things that we are used to feeling uncomfortable with and not talking about.
Feel free to call Josh and tell him about how different you are.
Tell me. We can have a conversation. How fucked up we both are, and it's okay.
It'll end up on the podcast.
Yeah. But don't call Sean. He doesn't have any of these issues.
I'm perfect.
He's perfect.
I'm perfect, guys. All right. So we're gonna miss next week recording.
We are gonna miss next week.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
All
right. We got plenty still coming their way.
Yeah. By the time you hear this.
By the time you hear this,
it'll be something.
You'll know all about us. But hopefully episode 5 and 6 you'll be like, I fucking know these guys.
Yeah, there you go.
What they're hitting next, and it's always going to be something different.
Something new.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, man. Catch you later.
Another great one.
See ya.